Hello and welcome to this edition of the Diaspora Central Spotlight. With us today in the studio, ladies and gentlemen, is Hussllou. Yes, D-Cry Poetry. Houston is in the building. What's up, Hussllou?
How's it going?
Hey, wordsmith.
A little bit. Some people say that.
Yeah.
I'm not often sure what to call myself.
Spoken word.
Something like that. Something like that.
The man speaketh.
Yeah, divine message.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. But
There you
I
go.
let people decide what they want to take from me and what they want to define it as.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Welcome to Diaspora Central.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir. It's
Great
always
to
a
be here.
pleasure, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So how's it been?
It's been hot.
Yeah.
I thought Arizona was hot, but
Yeah.
I'm missing Arizona right now.
Well, there you
They're
go.
probably going up in 100 pluses. So
Well, they're gonna be hot this year, though.
Yeah, they're gonna be
they're
hot.
predicting. Yeah, they're predicting breaking records.
Yeah, no. So last year when I first moved there, I was in Los Angeles
Okay.
visiting my sister, and when I got back, man, it was in the middle of the longest heat wave or whatnot,
Yeah.
or however you want to describe it.
Yeah.
I got back and I'm like, there's no way it's actually this hot. So I
There you
looked
go.
on the weather app on my phone, right? And I'm like, I wonder how hot it is at night, because how does it go from 117 and drops low enough at night?
Yeah.
And it said at like 2 a.m. it'd be like 96 degrees.
Right.
And I didn't believe it. I'm like, nah, that's not possible. So I waited up till 2 a.m. and I went outside.
Right.
And it felt like 96 degrees
Wow.
outside at 2 a.m. So
Indeed.
yeah, it gets hot, but Houston just feels hotter.
Yeah.
Just the humidity is ridiculous.
It's Texas, man.
Yeah.
Everything is big here.
Gotta stay grand, right? Gotta
Everything
stay
is big.
grand.
It's gotta be grandiose, man. It's gotta be huge.
Right.
Yeah. Whoa, man. We gotta have that conversation. Yeah, we gotta have that profile, man. We gotta, because we know that even the least amount of skill that comes with that trade doesn't just happen.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not. Absolutely not.
Part is given by the divine power,
Without a doubt.
indeed, and then the other portion is gotta be developed. Yeah.
Well, I have an interesting theory on development. I have a friend, very, very close friend of mine, a brother. His name's Demola.
Yeah.
And he once told me, he was like, there's a gift, but you have to go ahead and sharpen the gift
Indeed.
and grow into the gift and
Indeed.
such nature.
Indeed.
But I have a different, he's not wrong, and I don't think that theory's wrong, but I have this, I don't believe it to be a theory.
Okay.
I believe it to be true, because I feel like I'm experiencing it right now.
Okay.
The word starts with let there be light. When God says it's time, it's time.
There you go.
It's not a matter, sometimes it's not a matter of anything we do, right? When
Right.
God says it's time,
Right.
he will prepare you to make sure that you're ready for the time.
Right.
Whether or not you got ready or not,
Yeah.
he will use life to make sure that you're in the right place at the right times for what he needs.
Indeed, when it's time, it's time.
Absolutely.
That is quite true, because sometimes you can sit there and prepare yourself as much as you
Absolutely.
want, and all of a sudden you'll be like, yeah,
Nothing's still happening.
there
right?
could be some there could be some truth to. Well, you say that it's not a theory, you believe it to be true.
Absolutely.
I guess in life, I always say that life is nothing but a bunch of theories for us humans, right?
Right.
Only the divine power knows what is
Absolutely.
what it is. But good theory though.
Yeah, it's been
In scientific terms, that is.
right,
in scientific
absolutely.
terms.
Right. In heavenly terms, it's
Yeah.
just
It is what it is.
Someone told me something recently. They were like, I was like, yeah, I'm just being patient, waiting on God, and I'm doing my part and putting in the work. And they were like, actually, stop saying that.
Yeah.
God is the one with all the patience.
There you
He's
go.
the one waiting for you to be prepared and ready for what you're getting ready to go do.
Quite
he's,
true.
He's waiting for you to put your heart posture in the right place for him to say, okay, it's time for the mission.
Indeed.
Right? Because we oftentimes think, okay, yeah, I'm going to just, wait on God. No, that's long suffering. I heard someone else say on the podcast, which makes sense when you dissect it from the angle of God is the one that's patient.
Right.
So.
Oh no, quite true, man. Quite true. Now I hear several mentions of God, divine power. So it means that you are a man who's actually centered, who has a belief.
I grew up in church.
Okay.
I grew up in Nigeria originally, born and raised.
Yeah.
I moved here in 2007. I was 11 at the time. But I grew up in church. My grandmother always made sure that I was in church.
Gotcha. And just not to cut you off, but
no,
here on Diaspora Central, you are free to mention names and shout outs
Okay.
As many as you want and however you want them, because it is important. So when you say grandma, you always got to give us a name, because that helps also us put together. We never know. You could have cousins out there that we just don't know, right?
Well, let's be careful with that. My dad was very active.
Yeah, there you go.
let's put that out there. But I'll say this. I actually only know her as grandma.
Okay.
Growing up within culture, back home in Nigeria, you don't really refer to our elders with their name.
Right.
So
yeah.
Interesting you say that. This is the first time I'm thinking about the fact that I actually don't know her actual name.
Wow.
I know her as grandma.
There you go.
Yeah.
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 Now, that's interesting, because
I know. I'm thinking about it for the first time right now. It's like I might have to call my sister and be like, what's grandma saying?
Yeah. That does happen. So what state in Nigeria?
What state after I left?
No, where were you born in?
Oh, what state? I was born in Lagos.
Okay.
My dad is from Ekiti.
Okay.
My mom is from Oyo.
There you go.
Oyo is mainly where I spend most. Oyo and Lagos. Between Oyo and Lagos is where I spend most of my time when I was in Nigeria.
So that makes you a full-blown Yoruba.
I'm a Yoruba, let me Benisa. Small now.
There you go.
My people back home will be ashamed of me right now because I sound like an American trying to speak Yoruba. But it is what it is. I'm learning back. I'm picking it back up.
Yeah, it's okay. It's the culture of the diaspora, right? And that's what it is. That's what makes us important, right? Yeah. Now I'm sure that there was that cultural shock at some point. Yeah.
At every step of the way.
There you go.
Every step of the way. I got here and the first thing that came to my mind was, why is there not gold on the side of the street? Back home they definitely make it seem like it's all rosy here.
Yeah.
It's sweet. You know, they make it seem like a homeless man in America is more, is richer than a millionaire in Nigeria. Not the case at all, and so the culture shock of here being different, as well as the culture shock of the perception and media and propaganda pains to Africa. Yeah. Coming here definitely was a different different view of things. Especially but I thank God, because one thing most definitely that happened for me was seeing that so much was so different and seeing being able to move around one way or another for whichever reason back home, seeing what back home had, but then getting here and seeing what was present here, it allowed my mind to go, well, how did they do that? Right? And so by profession, I'm an engineer. Yeah. Right? So electrical engineer. I used to work at Hussllou Packard. So when I got in there to Hussllou Packard, actually, I had never taken apart a computer in my life, and I got to working on certain things like I have certain like defensive publications. I got prototypes that are used in computers for like charging you the DC jack where they charge things and things of such nature.
And when you say you have, you mean you actually designed them and developed them?
Yeah. Okay, so created.
Did you get the patents for it? The patents?
No. So I applied for a patent for one, but it didn't get approved for a patent. There's something right under a patent called a defensive publication where they put out an article on the design.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I did get that defensive publication.
Cool.
But funny enough, so being that I already work at Hussllou Packard, and some people might be like, well, duh. When I submitted the defensive publication, the design for a patent as well as, and then it got approved for a defensive publication. Yeah. They're like, yeah, we pay you to do that. That's your job, right? So they paid me like $200 for it.
That's corporate rule,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah, that's corporate rule. If you do it, if you're working for us on this capacity and you create something that is related to what you do, then that does belong
to us.
Yeah,
and indeed. Without a doubt, I understand it belongs to y'all, but in my mind, I'm like, well, if I can create that and you guys find value in it to where when I submitted for this, and mind you, this was within, I want to say, my first 8 months working at Hussllou Packard. Yeah. Right? If I can do that fast, I can probably go create something for myself.
Oh, that
right. It for sure definitely takes more. Right. And it takes a lot more learning and this and that. But that type of reward, even though I'm coming now to understand that everything's not about reward, but I'm growing in that manner. But that type of reward for that type of
no, it's huge.
IP
it's
like,
huge. It's huge. It's big. The way I like to kind of, I guess, break it down to younger people entering the corporate world is like this. It takes a combination of a lot of those things to create that environment, right? So they giving you that environment. They giving you all those necessary tools and everything else for you to be able to create.
Right.
And you always got to give a few in order to be able to get it, right?
Right.
So initially you get the props.
Right.
That's the $200 plus your name, because your name is there forever. That's legacy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because 200 years from now, your grandchildren will be looking, great-grandchildren, and anyone after you will be looking into it.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And your name is there. No one can take that away, right? Yeah. And you may not even be the one to reap the full benefits of it, right? It may end up being your children at some point.
Right. And I had to learn that. It's not always about immediate gratification.
No, not always, no.
I think God took me on a journey most certainly to fix a lot of things within my heart posture. And, that one, there are a lot of things that happened there in terms of, that wasn't the end of my time at Packard initially. Things still progressed. I had a great time at the company.
There you go.
I did. There was some bumps in the road, but for the most part, good company to work for. It can overwork you sometimes,
It's part of the process,
absolutely.
right? Yeah.
It depends on the position, the job, the timing, and it was around that COVID time when it was more short staff and things of such nature. So I understand things happen, especially growing now. It's like, okay, I get it, you know, especially also now building something of my own. I understand, what it takes. And I think those moments actually started to groom me for, what I was getting ready to embark on without even knowing, right? So can't be nothing but grateful. Everything God does for a reason.
Indeed.
Right? So,
Indeed. It's nothing but preparation for the big show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all preparation for the big show. And what I always say is that it's really, real life is not a dress rehearsal. You just gotta carry it that way and go through.
Life is not a battlefield.
Indeed.
I mean, life is a battlefield and not a playground.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. It is. And you gotta be ready and make yourself ready at all times. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you had a bit of a corporate experience there.
Yes, I did. A little bit for 3.5 years or so.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a good thing, because it gives you teaches you a different way of moving.
Absolutely.
Right. Even being able to sometimes sit in those rooms and in these meetings also, and that's one of the things that a lot of times I say, that even for us to be able to help the continent, we gotta understand how to sit in those rooms, because when you're competing globally, that's where that competition is happening, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because independently we can do a lot, and don't get me wrong, and it is a way of doing it, and maybe even a way of probably taking it on in the game. But there's also got to be a strategy to be able to sit in those rooms in order to be able to create a synergy that,
regardless of shade of color, we can always do more together than apart. It doesn't matter who size,
right,
language. We can always do more together than apart. All it takes is willingness.
That's it.
All it takes is willingness. And for too long, I think our people have bought this mindset of us,
Yeah.
that we forget that we're all human.
Indeed.
At the beginning of things, I have a poem. Shout out to Poetically Imperfect, my boy Evan. He gave me, in a conversation that we had, he mentioned the longest journey I ever took was from my head to my heart, right? And so I took that as a prompt and wrote to it. And the poem starts off saying, way too often we forget that birds are still flying when it rains, as it storms.
Right.
Like love shines through our soul, they still soar.
Right.
Knowing that the sky is where home lies, they fly high. So whether it's storming or not,
Right.
whether it's raining, they were born to fly.
Indeed.
They're gonna fly.
Indeed.
And if the storm gets bad enough to where they have to go stay away somewhere and hide away somewhere, they're gonna fly to where they need to hide to.
Indeed.
They'll probably still be flying in the midst of wherever they're hiding.
Right.
And when the storm settles enough, they're gonna come back out, even if the sun is not out yet.
Indeed.
Because the sky for them is home.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to understand also, as human beings, the earth is on.
Right.
Regardless of shade, regardless of color,
Right.
regardless of continental position.
Right.
First things first, we all bleed.
Indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody, regardless of what pigmentation.
And bleed red.
Nothing changes in there, right?
Right.
So it's like, and then everyone has a heart. You know, what you decide to, what the contents of your art is, that's up to you. You know, sometimes up to background, but a lot of times, I've come to now understand also, God already has defined a lot of things. Indeed. A lot of us think we have more control than we do.
Yeah, indeed.
But we truly don't.
Indeed.
Right? Everything. If everything happens for a reason, how do you think that your one little drop in the ocean is making the biggest difference?
Right.
Not unless God says so.
Right.
Right? Because the thing is, you find people that you wouldn't expect to align with each other thriving with each other.
Yeah, indeed.
It was already designed to be that way.
Right.
It wasn't about their characteristics or this and that. It was designed for them already to be able to either go accomplish a certain goal or to be able to go get certain things done. And you know, and we got to start adopting that mentality more because we're just gonna keep sitting back on the back burner. Because if we take a look at what the quote unquote others did, which I don't define as others. Like I said, we're all human, but regardless of what way they did it, they incorporated others into creating their success.
To be successful takes a level of diversity that cannot be denied.
Absolutely.
Right. And when I speak diversity, that is in all levels.
Absolutely.
Right? In all levels. It really takes diversity in all levels that can be denied. So church through grandma.
Right.
Yeah. And so while you in Nigeria, were your parents in Nigeria also? They were here.
So interesting thing. So my dad, when I was born, was here in the States.
Okay.
My mom was back home. My grandparents were, of course, and cousins and aunties and uncles, they were back home as well. My dad was here at the time. And then I actually came over here because my mom passed. A little bit after my mom passed is when I moved over here to the States. Oh, it's life. It's life, you know. So grandma back there, as well as the rest of the family, extended family, but then mom over there as well. Dad was the only one over here at the time. So, but yeah, everybody else was back home.
Yeah, but grandma was the major influence right there.
Yes. Yeah. But there were a lot of influences.
The timekeeper.
There were a lot of influences.
Let's go through those. Let's go through some of those. Yeah.
I moved around a lot. So I'll just give you the story. So at the age of 9, I lost my mom, right? Okay. Then I went on to go live with uncles, aunties, as well as then my grandparents for a decent length of time. Right. Then after about 2 years of my mom passing, I moved here to the States. Right. And then staying with my dad. My dad came and got me and my sister, right? So my dad and my mom had me and my sister, so 2 kids, right? Coming here to the States, my dad passed 2 years after that, I moved here, so around the age of 13, right? And then my dad, I had an older brother. He was here for a bit, and then he passed also, actually. Okay. And then a little bit after that, my grandmother also passed while I was here in the States. So in terms of influences, my influences have been vast because I've been moving around a lot, right? My uncles had a pretty grand influence on me when I was younger. Here, a lot of my influence here in the States, in all honesty, I would just say was just being immersed in a different culture, you know, being around different people. Right. I didn't even, some people might hear me do poetry and think there's some musical influence in there. Yeah. I didn't even start listening to music till I was in about my 2nd year in college, actually, you know, because moving around a lot with all those things happening, there wasn't time really for stuff like that. There wasn't this song is popping.
Other pressures in life.
You know, right? Life was happening to me very fast at a very young age, and so I thank God also, because I think He was preparing and molding me through that for moments that were coming. And I think, and it's not that anything grand is necessarily too big happening right now, but God is being grand in my life this entire way. So
it's definitely, because you know that pressure makes diamonds, right? It takes a lot of pressure to make diamonds.
Absolutely.
And you don't just shine out of the blue. It takes that pressure, and I appreciate you sharing that with us.
I'll tell you this one thing though: the biggest influence on me in terms of the way I treat people and love people is my sister.
There you go.
My sister, she
give us a name.
Olamide. Yeah. So my name is Olumide. My first name is Olumide. Hers is Olamide. It's only 1 letter difference.
Got you.
From birth, that's probably that's the only person that's been side by side. All the way through, you know, and she's somebody that carries love.
She older than you?
Yes, she is. She's about 2 years older than me. Her birthday is actually coming up. Happy birthday. Her birthday is coming up on the day of my the first show of the tour here.
There you go.
On the 13th. But yeah, the way she carries love, the way she loves people, the way she cares for people, that definitely has been my biggest influence.
Indeed. And as we know, I mean, it takes pressure to create diamonds, and you definitely one of those, because artistically you definitely fire, brother.
That's love.
Yeah, and in all honesty, it's all perspective in life, right? Because some may come from what we consider the perfect life and end up adding to nothing.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, so we gotta appreciate the steps that really take us and and where they put us.
With their motives, absolutely.
Indeed, yeah, because it's part of the process. Now, in school, the crafting, the penmanship, the wordsmithing, that did anyone, any teacher early on kind of see anything in you? Did anyone in the family, did somebody see something and say, you know what, you got something?
So I'll tell you a couple things.
Yeah.
First of all, my worst subject in school was English.
Whoa.
I know. Shocker.
Don't say.
Shocker. My worst subject in school was English.
Yeah.
Partially because of effort. But I'm not the biggest reader,
Right.
even to today. Right. These days, I'd rather listen to books than read.
Gotcha.
Right. But back then, it's like, oh yeah, read the book and this and that. I'd read the Sparks notes.
Yeah.
2 days before the essays due, right?
Yeah.
The essay the day it's due and turn it in and get a decent enough grade. So
Right.
I didn't feel the need
Yeah,
to
you're
try.
getting by.
Right. You
Yeah.
know, honestly, wrong on my part, without a doubt. Don't do that, kids.
Yeah,
That's
no.
not the way to
No,
go.
no, read the book.
Absolutely. Take advantage of it when you can, right?
Right.
But so the only class I actually ever failed in school was a class called technical writing, right? So when it comes to crafting and writing, where I first started doing poetry was at Prairie View University, where I graduated.
Yeah.
There's a group there called Triple P, PV Productive Poets. They have an event, an open mic every other week in the library, in the room on the side of the library. Inside, well, inside the library, but like tucked away to the side.
Yeah.
I walked in through, I think, a smoothie/coffee shop one day, and I saw people there around outside discussing it. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, they're doing like a spoken word thing. I'm like, okay. So I walk in, I see people talking.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I like yelling at people.
Yeah.
Without no one saying anything back to me, I don't
Right.
I don't mind. This is kind of cool. And then I started seeing that, the way they were connecting words, right? And the way they were connecting with me and with people.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it was more of a feeling than anything else. That night I went to my dorm and I just went on YouTube and just started looking for spoken word poetry.
Yeah.
Continued just spoken word, just listening
Yeah.
all night.
Yeah.
I came by a guy named Rudy Francisco.
Okay.
Fire poet. A lot of poets would tell you he's probably one of the best.
Yeah.
Right. Every time I hear Rudy, it's like I get inspiration to go write. Right?
There you go.
Not the exact same thing, but I go write my own. But initially, actually, the very following week, actually, let me take it one step back.
Go ahead.
Right. Back in high school, there's a teacher by the name of Heather Miller.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. What school?
Travis High School.
Okay.
In Richmond.
Yeah.
Here. And back in Nigeria, my grandparents were farmers.
Right.
Right. So I went to this class. I'm like, it's an easy grade. It's an agriculture class. Right.
Yeah.
And she was teaching the class. And then I ended up joining this group called FFA, Future Farmers of America.
Okay.
Where she asked me, because the class I was in, it was like introduction to FFA. And she asked me to do something that she had the whole class do, but to do it for a competition.
Okay.
Which was the creed speaking, right? Where you have to memorize the creed. It's like 5 stanzas.
Yeah.
So like 5 paragraphs.
Right.
So memorize it and go do it emotionally and passionately in front of judges and get judged.
Yeah.
Right. There were 2 girls that always compete to go do it before, but she ended up picking me to go do it.
Okay.
When I got to the competition, I actually got last. So the girls were looking at her like, oh, you shouldn't have picked them. You should have picked me, you know, type of thing. But then she came back with the scorecard. I was upset because I thought I did great.
Right.
She comes back with the scorecard, and they got markings all over the card because of my accent. So as you know, we Africans, we don't pronounce our H's.
Right.
And there's happiness
Right.
all over the thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm over there saying happy,
Yeah.
but they're like, I'm not hearing happiness,
Yeah.
right? So after that, she worked with me on enunciation
Got
and
you.
speaking and things of such nature.
Got you.
And then now when I got to Prairie View University and I saw them in that library room, I was already used to being able to memorize easy, as well as being able to express myself.
Indeed.
Right. So for me, it was natural. Right. So I saw a poem by Rudy Francisco. Till today, I can't remember for some reason the poem.
Right.
But I took the poem. Went back the very next week, had the poem memorized, and I was doing the poem.
Yeah.
Then about a month later or so, one of the guys in the group, I wasn't in the group yet, I was just coming out to the open mics. One of the guys in the group walks up to me and he's like, oh, that's, mind you, I hadn't seen spoken word or heard anything of spoken word at this time. he goes, oh, someone tells me that they've heard that poem before. His name was Speak. Shout out to Speak. He's a great poet. Great, phenomenal poet. And everybody in the Triple P group, amazing poets. All the way from Roger Wog to Brooke to Issa Eben, you know, to Big Ice. She's actually going to be, I'm excited about that. She's going to be featured in one of my shows, actually, the one on the 13th.
Nice.
But he was like, someone told us they've heard that poem before. I'm like, yeah, it's Rudy's Francisco poem. He's awesome. If you not heard it, he's like, yeah, but it's supposed to be original work. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Come back the next week with my own poem, and the rest was history.
Got you.
Yeah.
So, in other words, it's really a matter of doing a self-assessment, understanding your weaknesses, and then going back and fixing, making those weaknesses strengths. Yeah. And with that, let's go ahead and take a very quick break, because we talked so much about your performances, and people want to see exactly what that performance is like. Yeah. For those of you that just joined, I just now tune into Diaspora Central Spotlight, and our guest today is Hussllou, right here on Diaspora Central Spotlight. We'll be right back.
It is incredibly hard to fathom that running while black is a crime. Sleeping in your own home while black is a crime. But worst of all, breathing while black appears to be a death sentence. So while I still have time, I get down on my grind and I hustle. I am out here preaching. Some people call it the gospel, but truly I am just a vessel, planted in the vein of this muscle that prostrates my arm till I line this page with my blood. This is my pain that I am giving away. Yes, my word is my craft, but also my word is my bond. Therefore, I am the definition of gifted. I've got to stay lifted to make sure that my brothers and sisters are protected. Make sure that my head is mixed in with the clouds so that you can perceive our teardrops as rain. We have ducked our heads to fit in with your crowd, disguised our sorrows in plain sight, engulfed by heartbreak that just will not go away. We were faced with mistakes that we stood no chance against. Our blueprint to life was always smeared with blood, and for some reason that just won't go away. So I get down on my grind and I hustle.
And we are back. If you just joined us, we now tune into Diaspora Central Spotlight, and our guest today is Hussllou.
Thank you very much for having me.
The Cry Poetry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dude, we should say also the inventor.
You could, honestly, you could.
You got receipts.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got receipts. But one of the things that a lot of times when people look at artists, they fail to realize is at times the level of intellect behind it, right? And a lot of times they think that, okay, people use art as a scapegoat or as a way of getting by because they don't have either enough intellect or enough intelligence to do other things and do other things well.
Absolutely.
Right? It's a perception that many have.
Absolutely.
Have you encountered a lot of those situations?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say a lot, but
or some of those situations.
Yeah. I think people very much underestimate what it takes to do this. When you talk about intelligence, intelligence is very broad, right? But one thing about intelligence is you have to be able to understand the lay of the land where you are,
right?
And also be able to map it out so you understand how to make your way through the maze that is that map.
Indeed.
Right. One thing for me, most certainly, is I believe intelligence to mainly be you being truly yourself. Because if you're yourself, you're going to put on the armor of what you're strongest in, which is going to just then strengthen whatever you choose to do. And when I say be yourself, I literally mean, I don't mean in terms of what you do. I'm talking about who you are, right? If you're someone that loves people, regardless of what you do, love people.
There you go.
Have love.
Yeah.
Regardless of what people do to you, carry that love. Don't let people strip your armor away from you.
Exactly.
Right? Because, and that's one thing with me is love has grown in my heart a lot more than that in the past, right? I always had love for people. I always had love for things, but I believe in this world we often take what's necessary, and then we also give what we feel is necessary to fit in, right? So for a while I was trying to fit in, right? So people saw me in a different light. People saw me as a different person. I took a break from doing I didn't intentionally take a break. During COVID, the poetry spots stopped.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, I didn't get back up until about December 22nd this year, actually.
Wow.
It was the first time I got, I mean, not this year, this past year. It was the first time I got back on the mic. Right. And
yeah. What did it feel like, I guess, because, I mean, you going from this edge in which you all of a sudden, boom, you entirely fired up and you definitely up and coming and people see you coming, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, boom, you stop and you go through this period in which you're not.
I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't even say people saw me coming because I didn't share much poetry when I was doing it initially.
Okay.
When I started at Prairie View University, I would only do those open mics. I didn't even necessarily tell people, right?
So you just did the open mics. After the open mics, you kind of pretty much.
Yeah, I just went for open mics.
Okay.
And then when I left Prairie View University, was working at Hussllou Packard, I used to live in the Woodlands, right? So it's a little further from everything in Houston. So there's not really much people around me that I know.
It's a different vibe.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a cool place. It's just there's not too many, you know, people. It's not too much youth there, especially.
Out there you gotta do business conferences,
right,
man.
Right.
That's a different kind of thing. Different lifestyle.
Right. So I needed a hobby to pick up to keep myself engaged and entertained and things of such nature. So I started looking for open mic and poetry spots.
Okay.
Came around right about now, as well as local seat at the time, and I used to go to those often. It would be on Mondays and on Wednesdays. I tried to get to them all the time.
Gotcha.
But also still I would only go there to go to open mics.
Yeah.
I didn't go there for anything. I wasn't trying. I wasn't really. This poetry thing chose me. I wasn't
choose it.
I wasn't really trying to do this. This was not part of my plans. You know, this was. I can't even tell you where it came from, honestly. Right? Even when I tell you like English is my worst subject, I'm not necessarily a reader and this and that. That's absolutely true. Yeah. My poetry is literally just my life stories and experiences or things that I relate to that I've seen myself. Right. And so when I stopped and took a break because of COVID, and when things started happening that shut places down. God took me on a journey. Never called myself a poet before that. Actually, I'll give you a little piece of something that I just recently wrote 2 days ago to describe that. It goes, I never really claimed to be a poet. Storyteller is what I used to tell people. But I'm coming now to the realization that I'm more than a poet. I'm a poet's poet. You know, so now it's like Serena, I love my people, but like her spikes, I'm over everybody's heads for the most part. You know, like her serve, I'm kicking things off. I'm a message for the messengers who carry light but found it in the midst of darkness, who finally now understand that they are the light at the end of the tunnel that they are rowing in when they look in the mirror. At times I write stories about life, while God writes mine out as movie scripts and then tells me to put it on display like they left the noose loose. Yes, I escaped, but I have no reason to leave my people behind to get slaughtered, and regardless of color or texture, chances are you can likely still braid. I ain't here to gatekeep. I'm here to hand out the keys to the gated wells for those who carry love in a world full of hate. People call me a poet. Some call me an artist. I now feel like I've grown to the point where I feel like I'm a poet. Yeah. But honestly, I feel like I'm a divine message. Yeah. Because I feel like my life story and my journey, not very many will, if any, would have encountered the same thing.
Yeah, it's that stage where you own the narrative, right? When you sit back and you actually get a chance to analyze your own life and determine that, you know what, I need to own this narrative, and you own it. And then you start carrying it like it is your responsibility to carry it.
Well, I think it's even more than a narrative. I think in this time that we're in right now, I think I'm one of the few that has seen what I've seen. True. It's not many people I know that have lost both parents, a sibling,
quite true,
and a grandparent,
quite true,
all before the age of 17. Yeah. But then also on top of that, grew up in Nigeria, moved all the way to a different continent, the United States on the West, and hasn't been back since. Right, so still has family back there, right? Have family here, right? I have extended family. I have a sister that I actually have only seen probably once in my life who lives in Nigeria, right? Wow. You know, so like I've gotten a chance to see a lot of different things in life. Also because of my people passing, I've had to move around a lot, around different people. Yeah. So I've gotten to be surrounded around different characters and characteristics, right? And I don't, like I said, I don't think God makes mistakes, right?
No, not at all. Never.
And so I feel like for me, one of my biggest strengths is understanding people. Right. I'm capable of a lot, but I had to understand that like people
Right.
is what I thrive in.
Right.
I could talk to people all day.
Yeah. A portal, and we portals of energy.
You know.
Right. We poured it. Right. God pours it into us.
Absolutely.
And we portal it to others.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's the thing. It's like God has just been pouring into me.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, yeah, I feel like I've elevated to where now I feel like I can call myself a poet without a doubt. But I now think I'm more than a poet in the way that I approach things. I do more than poetry. I'm here to give life.
Yeah.
I'm here to give my life.
Yeah.
You know, to people and serve people, you know, for wherever they need to go or want to go. Because I've seen where people can be.
Indeed.
Right? Because I've been where people don't want to be.
Yeah.
Right? And
Indeed.
so it's like the things that people say it all the time. You can't talk about religion or politics on the dinner table, but you get in front of a mic and a poetry event and you can do
Right.
that, right? Well, I don't get in front of a mic and necessarily talk about religion.
Right.
And I don't talk about politics.
Right.
I don't too much talk about relationships. I don't talk about none of that. I talk about life.
Yeah.
And I can only speak to life from the lens that I see it. So when I say something like birds are still flying when it rains, on this journey here, it was one heck of a storm.
Right.
Right. But what I didn't start to find sun till I decided it was okay to fly in the rain.
Right.
Once I started flying in the rain, I flew past the rain.
Indeed.
I flew past the storm.
Indeed.
And now the sun is in my face.
Right.
And for some it might be too bright that they don't want to be next to it.
Right.
And that's fine. Right? Because over time there's gonna be a point where a message that I'm gonna put out or the people that I'm connecting are gonna need each other or they're gonna need the message.
Indeed.
Right. And that's all that matters to me.
Indeed.
Not looking for anyone to necessarily want or need or this and that.
There you
I just
go.
look to continue to keep giving life
Right.
in the way that God has given it to me.
Indeed. And it's one of those basic things, right? If you gotta make somebody happy, you gotta start by making yourself happy
Absolutely.
first so that you can then share that happiness with others.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, so high school, college, right? You're now getting to that point. At what point and what triggers you to honestly become like, okay, I gotta go pro?
Nothing else would work. When I say I'm a divine message, I don't say that lightly. And I'm now just starting to own that. It's a poem that I wrote that goes, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is not Hove. My name is not Cole. My name is Hussllou, right? And that poem, at the end of it, initially, I forgot what the ending was, but it was like, I'm not a poet. I'm a triple P poet, is what I used to say, because I started off at triple P. But that ending changed a lot of times over time, right? When I got back on stage in December, that was the poem I did.
Yeah.
And it goes, I am not a poet. I am a divine message. Prayer, purpose, praise, and maybe even pain. It's all poetry.
Okay.
So I've experienced all those four things.
So you're now going from a triple P into a 4 Ps.
Yes. We had extra power. Raise the power.
There you go. There you go.
Yes, absolutely. But I when I say I'm a divine message, I don't say it lightly because I didn't go pro. I didn't start doing poetry. Like I said, this chose me.
Yeah.
Or this was maybe written somewhere or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
I didn't say, okay, let me now start doing poetry even when I got back on stage in December, right?
Right.
Things just aligned.
Yeah.
But before that, nothing else would work. So I'll give you a little bit more insight. So during COVID, working at Hewlett Packard,
Okay.
first of all, they kind of burnt me out with the amount of work that they were giving me. It was a point where I told my director, who used to be my mentor, I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm quitting. This was in May of 2021. I'm like, I'm quitting. You guys, because I created a whole system. I'm like, for y'all to be for me to be capable of doing this job properly and not dying at y'all hands, we need to create this structure, and I need y'all to hire this person for here and here because I was running a worldwide operation for the #1 biggest market share ordering PC in the world, right? On the level where I'm controlling everything for technical problems that come into the company.
Yeah.
For commercial units, products, and for consumer products, they have two different teams, right? For anything those are technical issues. For anything having to do with safety, smoke, you know what I'm saying? Spark.
Right. Yeah. Sparks, fires, overheating.
All of those came through me, right? Worldwide.
Wow.
Right. From so for you go first level support, second level support.
Yeah.
The third level support for everything safety funneled through me. So to a degree, they burnt me out in that role, right?
Yeah.
He was like, we'll give you a leave of absence, you know, because
To
we
go.
don't want to lose you. You
Right,
know, come back
yeah.
and whatnot. When I came back, he put me in a role that was not too hectic, but at the time I was already burnt out. But as much as I kept trying to push through,
Yeah.
then COVID was a thing, right? Where everyone was working from home.
Yeah.
And then they go, okay, we want everyone back in the office, so you need to take the COVID vaccination.
Yeah.
I don't take medicine. I gotta go.
So that changed the whole thing.
Yeah, so because of that, I had to leave HP.
Yeah.
After that, nothing else would work.
Yeah.
Nothing else I tried would work, and it's not because I'm not capable,
Right.
You know, because I'm capable of a lot. Like I said, walked into HP, never taken apart a computer,
Right.
And I'm creating tests, you know, just through learning. I think my greatest skill is the ability to learn, right? Through learning, I'm creating tests that now products have to qualify through for production and things of such nature, right? So, and I'm not saying it's not things people can't do or whatnot, but it's like, okay, I'm able to pick things up and do things, right?
If you apply yourself,
exactly, and that's anybody, right? So I'm not saying it's just me or anything. That's
Right.
absolutely that's anybody, but nothing else I did would work. In fact, I want to say 2 months, maybe like 3 or 4 months before I got back on stage.
Yeah.
I went to this interview in Arizona for a company that makes EV chargers, electric vehicle chargers, right?
Yeah.
And I was overqualified for the position.
Right.
They wanted to pay me kind of way less than they supposed to pay me or whatnot. But I was like, it's okay, nothing else is working, you know.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead. It's a job, and as
Right.
well as like I can. They were kind of starting up also. It's like I can help with that, and then it lets me get back in the engineering field and things of such nature. They gave me an offer on the spot, for the job.
Yeah.
They were supposed to send the offer. I sent an email saying thank you for the interview and things of such nature. 2 days later, got no response. I asked, okay, just want to check for an update.
Yeah.
No response. They never emailed me back.
There you go.
So it was like nothing would work.
Yeah.
Nothing else worked. And so when I got back on stage doing poetry, things just started aligning. It was like I said, when I say I'm a divine message, I don't say that because I'm like, oh, I think what I'm saying is this and that. No, nothing else would work. It was like God was like, unless you do that, you're gonna be where you are.
This is you. Yeah, this is you, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I was growing up in Nigeria, my classmates used to call me the composer. I have no clue why till today.
Wow.
Right. I preached in church when I was younger twice during our youth week and things of such nature. Shout out Hussllou youth. But and that was great experience, especially, you know, spiritually getting the ability to dig into the word differently and whatnot. But people would call me a prophet then, right? I used to always cringe at it. I still do, you know, because that's not something
that's a heavy title.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, please, you know,
it's not just for anybody.
You know what I'm saying? Let's leave that for God.
Right.
You know, I don't need people calling me that. I don't feel like I've done anything to deserve that name or anything.
You need real receipts for stuff like that.
You know what I mean? And it's like, but at the same time now, when things now start to align the way they do, where it's like, okay, the second I step my foot, and that's why I said when God says, let there be light, there's light. Yeah. The second I step my foot back in here, first God was making sure I was prepared along the way. Yeah. He was making sure that whatever was necessary was being put in place along the way. Right. And sometimes on this podcast called The Basement that I watch all the time, people should definitely check it out, by Tim Ross. I forgot which episode. I believe her name is Dr. Anita that he had on there. Okay. And she said that she had got a message from God a while ago, and the message didn't start coming true till about 20 years later. Right. So when God says, let there be light, really, that's when it's time. Yeah, definitely. People claim to not be overnight successes because I've put in this amount of work and that and the third. Yeah. I put in a lot of work. Yeah. I'm putting in a lot of work right now. Right. Right. Until God says it's time is when it's time. And when God says and snaps his finger and he's like, okay, there you go. Right. That's when what the world defines as success starts to happen. Indeed. Right. But guess what? That was overnight because God said it was time. Right. Right. Because before that, you decided you were doing all this work. It wasn't amounting to anything. Yeah. Indeed. You were waiting for it to amount to something. And you think it's the works of your hands that created, you know, what you now deem success. You know, God was like, do that so that you're ready for when it's time for success. Yeah. You know, so that's why I'm here. I'm like, you could call me overnight success. You can say I'm putting in work. It doesn't matter to me. Right. Whenever God's like, go here, go talk to this people. That's what I go do.
Yeah.
You know, whatever feels like is what I'm supposed to go do, that's what I go do.
Right.
Right. So it's not, for me, it's not a matter of success. It's not a matter of failure. It's not a matter of any of that.
Right.
It's just putting one foot for another.
There you go.
What I'm saying? So
yeah. And on the perspective of that, you actually have a tour coming up?
yes, I do. Yes,
Let's talk a little bit about it.
So this will be my second tour. First tour was tied to a satchel poetry tour. As you see, I got a satchel on. I always have satchels on. But the satchels actually play on one of my poems that goes, perception appears to always defeat reality. A lot of times people want to take what they see on the outside, right? But truth is, you never know what's really going on the inside, right? Or what's going on in someone's life for them. So when I show up to places and they see me with a satchel on and it's a quote-unquote designer satchel or whatever, they expect me to come up there and spit in bars in ways that might rhyme or this and that. Or I don't rhyme. I reason, you know. I'm not, like I said, I don't have a huge music influence, so I just align words well. I don't know how. I kind of do it like math, right? I'm really good at math. I've always been good at math. So I kind of write in a math formula almost, right? So I titled it Satchel Poetry Tour because what you see on me is in disguise. What comes out of my mouth is really me. But it's shocking to a lot of people when, and the room often is quiet because that's not what you're expecting, right? So this tour, I wanted to come back to Houston, where I kind of started poetry. So it's called the Hussllou Home Trill Tour. Right? So it's just around here in Houston, trying to give a different light and a different infusion to poetry. I got a couple people that I invite to poetry event, and they tell me things like, I'll come because it's you, but it's not, you know, no, I'm not really into poetry. You're lying. You deal with poetry every day. You watch movies. Those movie scripts were written. You listen to music. It was written. You cooking, that's poetry because it takes a feel. Right? Anything you do includes poetry, right? And so I'm trying to break the stereotype of, I'm not trying, to be quite honest. God has aligned a way for me to be able to break the stereotype of poetry being in this Shakespearean, you know, sense or whatnot. So I'm giving a little spin and a different twist of things where I have some of my guys in AZ, like I mentioned, Dylan Kelly, Dylan Newsom, shout out Double Deal, they're in the stew right now. But they Newsom, he makes beats, and then Kelly, you know, he's got an ear for sound as well as he makes music as well. So we kind of work on this new sound. We're working on this new sound that's essentially motivational speaking and spoken word, but with trap production behind it. But it allows you to sit in on the true message. Right. I haven't put much of it out. I put cuts of it out on sometimes on Instagram. They're not mixed and mastered. I do that mainly because the platform I'm building is a writer's platform, and I want people to understand you can do a lot of different things with poetry. It doesn't have to just be the written poetry or just only the spoken word, even though I enjoy both, right? But I'm trying to show everybody else also that there's more to poetry. So on the tour, I've got currently 3 events. The tour actually started with the Africa Day at Sen Institute and, you know, that entire thing or whatnot. So this is the second portion of the tour. There actually will be another third portion of the tour, and then I'll be out of here and back to Arizona. So the Hussllou Home Trill Tour on June 13th, we have the Town Crier series, which will be an infusion of some music, as well as some Afrobeats, some instruments, along with poetry. I've got some of Houston's heaviest hitters. This is the home and city of heavy hitters, especially when it comes to spoken word poetry. There's no doubt about that. So I've got Carrie Janae, Brandon Poyer, Big Ice. She's one that I mentioned that was also once a part of Triple P, and my man's God Gift. So the very first show that I had, I had 3 people as a part of it. God's Gift, Lady 380, as well as Lachelle the Shooter. And so God's Gift will be on the 13th also, but then on the 21st, I've got an event in collaboration with Talented Ones. Shout out my boys Lechi and Jay Shep. They're having the Talented One Fest, so the first night of the 3-day weekend is a poetry night, which is titled Come As You Are, which is a kind of like a pajama theme type thing. Just come get life, come get reality. And I've got the other 2 who were on the first event that I had in Houston in 2019 with me in Lachelle the Shooter as well as Lady 380. But then there'll be other features such as Jay Shep himself from Talented Ones. You're Talented Ones. He'll be on the mic as well. The Poetic Locksmith, she'll be there as well. It's a couple other names that I'm blanking on right now. I love y'all. I promise.
There you go. Yeah, but so basically the dates are from now until the end of
mid-July, about mid to end July. I've got a
Okay.
couple other surprise dates that I'll be dropping.
Got you.
But yeah, on the 13th we've got Town Crier. On the 21st we've got Come As You Are with Talented Ones. Then on the July 6th, my boy that also went to Prairie View University, he has an art show called The Art of Doing. I'll be featured on that as well. So
got you. And that's going to be at Set Institute
all
also,
three will
right?
be at Set Institute.
Right.
So anyone that hears this, come out, come experience life. The first 2 shows are absolutely free. So it's just, like I said, I'm just trying to give life back. You know? As far as I'm concerned, the gospel is not for sale.
There you go.
And for me, this is disguised evangelism. I disguise God in the form of love, essentially, because God is love.
Indeed.
Right. And you people got to understand love pays.
Indeed.
Right. People don't understand that enough. In my perspective, love will pay you. It might not be money, but love will pay.
Indeed. Yeah.
At the end. And so I'm just trying to spread love and
there you
spread
go. light
in a world full of hate. That's all Hussllou is in the cry poetry.
There you go. And now for people who actually want to follow you and want to find that information online, how would what handles or addresses would they go to?
You can find me on all platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook at The Cry Poetry. That is TheCryPoetry. The Cry Poetry. On all platforms.
Okay.
And then my personal page, if they do want to follow it, is Hussllou on Instagram. I don't have a TikTok. I don't have a Twitter.
Okay.
I have Facebook, but I don't use it. I'm only on Instagram, honestly, because of poetry.
Yeah.
But it's spelled HUSSLLOU with an underscore.
There you
Hussllou.
go. Yeah. Now, do you have a website?
Not yet. It's in
Okay.
construction.
It's in the works. All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, but this is great, man. I appreciate you coming through. So let's
Mind if I plug something for the Cry Poetry?
That's exactly where I was gonna go.
Okay,
If there are any shout outs or any plugs that you gotta do, now is the time to do so.
Okay, sounds good. So the Cry Poetry actually is a writer's platform. The Cry Poetry is not for me alone.
Gotcha.
Right. It's taken a different shape of its own than essentially what I intended.
Okay.
But the purpose is to give people who have the right message, the right light, the right amount of love, not even amount of love, just the right mindset of love to the world, who want to put that out in the world as opposed to everything else that we see in manipulation through other forms of media. That's what I'm trying to do with the Cry Poetry, is give people an opportunity to be able to step out to the people. But another thing is, us as poets and as artists, we stay stuck too much in the walls of open mics and poetry slams. Right. We got to understand that, like, people don't even know where we are when we're doing those things.
Right.
When I first started posting that I was doing poetry, people were like, "Where's that?" Right? Because even when I graduated and I went to and I moved to the Woodlands, I didn't know where the poetry spots were. I had to post on Instagram and be like, does anyone know poetry spots and things of that nature? So we've got to change that. So I'm trying to shift that narrative also to where most of the events that I actually do are not poetry events.
Right.
I go to actual events.
Yeah.
Right. So another thing the Cry Poetry is doing as an entity is being able to narrate all kinds of events. So like weddings, funerals, birthday parties, corporate events, fashion shows, sporting events, you know, you name it, right? So for example, Come As You Are, I think people definitely should come to that show on the 21st because I've got something planned that essentially fits the theme itself. I've got a set plan that's essentially a movie, right? Written out and acted out by me as well as a couple other people that I have involved in that. But essentially, I want to take poetry to the people where they are, where they need it most. If someone, like for example, now I have a poem on my life story, right? That talks about my people passing, and it ends with strike one, you gotta love. Strike two, you gotta learn. Strike three, you better live like there is no tomorrow.
There you go.
But then 4, you better love.
Right.
Because life is a journey and never a race. Right. And so when I go to certain places, like for example, when I take that to a funeral, right, and people just lost somebody, it puts death in perspective properly from someone who's experienced it.
Exactly.
As opposed to you just fantasizing about what you're supposed to feel.
Exactly.
Right? You know, it's like, no, I've lost all those people.
Exactly.
And I'm still here.
Yeah.
And you're going to be still here too.
Right.
People get the message where they need it.
Indeed.
Right. Not everybody that's coming to open mic is coming there for the message. It's great that they come for the wordplay. I love the wordplay. You know, I love listening to poetry more than I like doing it, honestly, you know,
Yeah.
which is why I'm trying to get people who I love listening to and who deserve to be heard to be heard, right? And so, but we also have to do our own part in making sure that we go to the people,
Right.
because they're not searching for us because they don't realize how much they actually need us, you know what I'm saying? And we've been tasked with the ability, we've been given the ability to be able to convey certain emotions, convey certain thoughts, convey certain realities across where people can really feel it, and it takes them to a place where they've once been, to where they then start connecting with people. So that's one thing I'm doing certainly, is trying to make sure that we get out to the people.
Yeah.
And I think I found more reward in terms of fulfillment being in those spaces, as opposed to, and I love the open mics, they're therapeutic, but the goal is to go ahead and spread poetry through events that people already having, so that they know where to come for the therapeutic spaces.
And it is pioneering, in all honesty. It is pioneering. It's almost so I would, you were just mentioning that, and I was thinking, you know what, wow, this is really,
like, why is there a wedding singer but there's no wedding poet?
Not only that, it's almost like you have become now this visual card, right? That everyone actually gets to see at the time when
they need it the most.
Exactly. Right? So it's like, okay, you just lost someone and you get in this card, like right before your peers, your loved ones, and everybody at the same time. So it's a pioneering, it's a pioneering concept.
Like, we forget too often that when we put one foot in front of another, our nervous system does it first. Right. So, for example, when I'm doing poetry in the space, it's completely different from what you see online. Even though you're recording the same place online and you're watching the same thing, right? Because we forget that most communication is not what comes out of a mouth. Right. People can feel each other. Because body language speaks louder than even words. So the people that are sitting next to each other, they might not say nothing to each other, and you can hear a pin drop in the room, but they can feel each other's energy. They don't notice that that's what's happening the same way you don't notice your nervous system is the one putting one foot in front of the other. But you get to sink into the truth of the time that's been put out by the poet. That's why it's like, you got to go to the people so they understand the feeling, and then now they come for therapy when they come to open mics and slams, because they know it can do more than just listening to words for them or being entertained. So.
There you go. Yeah, definitely. So our tour going in the city, Houston, Texas, until approximately mid-July or maybe end of July. Never know. If it goes really well, he may stretch it out an additional 15 days, because after all, listen, that's the stretch of the summer, the hot summer, and he's trying to make sure that Houston stays as hot as it can.
My people in Arizona miss me. Shout out to the Butterfly Effect band, you know, shout out to Reality, you know what I'm saying? Shout out my boy Distract, you know what I'm saying? My boy AP, you know what I'm saying? Shell, LP, Honey, you know what I'm saying? I'm coming back home soon enough, you know what I'm saying? I'm coming back home soon enough.
And you know, Arizona already hot, so you gotta bring some of that heat to Houston.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Indeed, but it's been a great pleasure, man, and I appreciate you coming in to share that journey, because it takes individuals like you, in all honesty, because the guidance that sometimes we give, we never realize how many need.
Absolutely.
Right? And they have an opportunity to actually hear from someone else, and understanding even the fact that it takes pressure to become bright.
Absolutely.
Right? And that pressure is okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we all can handle that pressure. And sometimes you may need a team, you may need a tribe, but you can still handle that pressure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm glad that you have found, and you are finding that tribe too, because I know you connecting in Houston, and definitely things are working out, man. I'm glad that is working out that way. If there's anything at any point in time that I can do to assist, I mean, don't hesitate to reach out. I mean, Diaspora Central is home for you. Anytime you got anything going on, just give us a shout out, and if we can do something, we can definitely make it happen for you.
Thank you very much. That's love.
Yeah, man, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And dude, if you ever at any point in time, and I'm not saying because you need to, but just because you want to, when I go back into the corporate world, take a look at NRG Energy.
We'll see.
And what I am saying is, not because you need to, but if you at any point want to, and you feel that that's where you are directing to, just give them a reach. Right?
Okay. I'll give it some consideration.
Indeed, yeah.
Absolutely.
Because after all, trust you me, man, it's about ensuring that you're building legacies. You're an inventor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're an inventor.
Yeah, I told my sister recently when I came here because I stopped in LA first before coming here. I told her, I'm like, yeah, your boy a full-time poet now.
Right.
But, you know, God does what God does. So
does.
I try not to wrestle with him all life.
Yeah.
You know, where life takes me, I go
you
in
go.
that direction.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's what makes us great soldiers, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you gotta be ready.
Absolutely.
You gotta be ready to march, to take marching orders and move accordingly.
Absolutely.
Because God speaks.
Absolutely.
And we follow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's been a great pleasure, and for those of you that took time out of your own busy lives to listen to us, I appreciate you for doing so. And remember, you can always catch us here on diasporacentral.net. Hussllou.
Hussle.
Yeah, it's been a great pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
All right, until next time, peace.